Intramuros was the biggest European city in Asia. It defines our culture. The problem is most of our officials do not appreciate it.
It's important because it's part of our history, part of our heritage, and one of the few physical evidences remaining of the Spanish period of Philippine history.
There are many good stories about Filipinos, people who headed the construction of the walls. The carvers were Filipinos also. It was a very exciting time. That's what I remember most, having a restoration force as big as Intramuros was at the time. Well, didn't exist anywhere in the country. When we came into Intramuros to work, what are we restoring? We do not know. How did it look, except for the ruined walls? That's why we have to dig pictures and pictures and pictures just to be able to provide a background.
And in the early days, it was really a dead town. Even when Casa Manila was finished, we would make whatever pakulo just to bring in people.
The greatest satisfaction I had was the presence of a good team because basically the three of us were the ones who set the initial directions of the Intramuros administration.
Since last year, I'm really amazed at how Intramuros has grown and has attracted so many people considering the problems we had in the beginning. There have thousands of people coming here and all of them are paying entrance fees, restaurants, all those chalets. Can you imagine? It's alive.
You have many people saying that Intramuros should not be preserved because it is a colonial memory and that should be erased. I don't think so. So it's about time that our people should see Intramuros is not just a symbol of colonialization, but a symbol of our spirit to rise above that.
Intramuros for me is a place that tells you the story of Manila, the city that I was born in, the city that I worked in, and the city that I live in and will probably live in for the next years. My life with Intramuros began in 1999 when I started volunteering for a museum, Bahay Chinoy. And it was from there that I started doing cultural work, and eventually which led to us establishing our tour outfit in 2005. Intramuros is a place of a lot of personal memories for me because I've been coming here since I was a little boy. I remember my first trip here was in the 1980s when we had a school trip at San Agustin Museum. And I distinctly remember getting freaked out because I went to a crypt with lots of dead people, and which nobody really explained what they were. So that fascination with Manila's history, with my personal family's history, began here in Intramuros. I think what we do here in Intramuros introduces people to our city. And by introducing Intramuros to our visitors, we tell them the story and we make them understand the city, my city, Manila, what it was, how it is today, and what it will be in the future. My hopes for Intramuros is to be a place that is anchored in its past, but at the same time, it's a place that can have new ideas for the future. No? A place that will inspire people, a place that will create good memories, and a place that will make you feel good about being a Manileño. I'm Ivan Mandy. I'm a cultural guide from Old Manila Walks, and we have been doing historical walks around the old city since 2005. I see myself as a cultural worker and a storyteller, and I tell basically the story of our city. And the story of Manila begins here in Intramuros.
Intramuros for me is a sense of curiosity and wonder. It's heritage and history, and it's a living experience. It's a place where you can see history come to life and where we believe there's a strong future for sustainable tourism. So bamboo is arguably one of the most sustainable building materials on the planet. We're using local Philippine bamboo that is then handcrafted into our products so that we can create jobs, but then also share a bit of Filipino design and flair with our international guests. We've been manufacturing bamboo bicycles. It is as part of a sustainable livelihood program. And here in Intramuros, we've been doing guided bamboo bike tours for now it's been about 5 years. And they get to ride the bamboo bikes around these historic walls. You can explore the nooks and crannies, the different chambers and gates and parks and buildings and museums and churches and everything. The different streets here all have something exploration worthy. Bambike helps you discover Intramuros like nothing else. So my name is Brian Benitez McClelland. I'm the founder of Bambike, and we're operating Bambike Eco Tours here in Intramuros. Bambike gets to help the guests experience Intramuros from a different perspective, sharing Philippine culture, our history, and the architecture and the stories of what really were the foundational years of Philippines here in Intramuros.
Every great and important city has an old town. Intramuros to me is Manila's old town. I have always been awed by Intramuros. It seems like when I'm coming here, there is an excitement that you feel that what happened in this place. There is something so sacred, so noble, so precious about Intramuros. I named it after my grandmother, Barbara, to just give it a Spanish flavor. And for some years, after a few years, we decided to really gear towards heritage so that people will see and know what is heritage, what is sinauna, yung kinaugalian natin, yung traditions natin, which will be seen in our cuisine and in our performances, in the dance that we present here in Barbara's. I would attribute it to my mom, to my mother, who taught me the value of work, the value of excellence, the value of feeding people in style and giving them satisfaction. I would want to happen that Intramuros will be remembered by every person who comes to this place because of its uniqueness, its sacredness, its history, its everything. There is so much here. I'm Barbara Gordon de los Reyes of Barbara's Heritage Restaurant. I have been in Intramuros for the past 30 years, which has been a great part of my work, my joys. It's like an adventure.
I'm Martin Tino Jr. My lolo became chairman of the COMELEC, and he was the one who transferred the COMELEC to Intramuros. I was in grade school. He would go home at 6 o'clock every afternoon. They pick us up at 4 o'clock, so I have to wait for him in his office. So I would go around Intramuros in the early 50s. It was all ruins. I've always been interested in old houses. I began traveling throughout the whole country. Intramuros was the biggest European city in Asia. This is our history. It defines our culture. The problem is most of our officials do not appreciate it. IA was founded. And Jame Laya, I didn't know Jame Laya. He got me as a consultant. Then we started having exhibits. The first ever on relieves, on santos, on ivory. We have all these horrible looking modern buildings. I wish they could tear it down and rebuild it properly. And in the early days, it was really a dead town. Even when Casa Manila was finished, we would make whatever pakulo just to bring in people. In the afternoon, Intramuros was empty. Empty. There was hardly any people. Since last year, I'm really amazed at how Intramuros has grown and has attracted so many people, considering the problems we had in the beginning. They have thousands of people coming here, and all of them are paying the entrance fees, restaurants, all those cales. Can you imagine? It's alive. You can see the whole thing is alive.
As I always say before, whenever we say Manila, Manila was of course Intramuros, and during the Spanish period, and it was their prime city, and so everything that was about Philippine history and culture during the Spanish and of course the American period began and eventually developed in the walled city. And in the course of time, this would become also a prime urban tourism area, especially with the restoration and the heritage conservation that has been going on in the city. I think the biggest challenge for Intramuros is for it to be incorporated into that modernization without affecting the historical heritage of the walled city. I mean, accommodations can be done for the modernization that is happening. internet, telephones, modern facilities for tourists, but it doesn't have to come at the sacrifice of what existed there before. I think that's one of the biggest challenge until today, for developing Intramuros. I'm Dr. Jose Victor Torres. I'm a associate professor here at the History Department of the De La Salle University. I teach Rizal and Philippine history here in the History Department. Well, I think it's because it's one of the closest place. If you're a foreign visitor, it's one of the closest place and one of the most visited based on tourism information. It's one of the most visited places in Manila. Because you have to remember, Manila is the capital city. And a capital city has to have its attraction, both old and new. And for so many years, that old attraction, I don't mean old because it's passé, it's old because it's part of our past. And the realization that there was something that remained behind for the people to know and experience and see with their own eyes is probably something that's an experience. A good experience for visitors, both foreign and local. I'd probably siguro describe Intramuros as rich. It's rich in heritage, it's rich in the Filipino identity, and it's very rich in our history and culture. And I think that would fit the description not only before but today. And as I always said, whenever you walk through the streets of Intramuros, you are walking through Philippine history.
Intramuros is valuable not only for me but for the whole of the Bureau of Treasury because it's a convergence between the distant past and the present. Over the short span that I have served as the treasurer, I have seen how, through the efforts of the Intramuros administration, places like Fort Santiago, the surrounding walls and gardens, the old churches, and the plazas have become vibrant attractions, showcasing the old alongside the new. So indeed, Intramuros is on the rise. I'm Arcilla de Leon. I'm currently the Treasurer of the Philippines and I've been working here in Intramuros since 2013. Well, personally, Intramuros is important again to me because I find solace after hard day's work. But remembering my childhood, our family would always hear masses in the Manila Cathedral, particularly during Easter Sundays. And just the same, there are also times when here in the Treasury, when our jobs will be very demanding, but as we see the surroundings of Intramuros, some sort of takes away, all this stress and reminds us of how lucky we are to be in this place, surrounded by the history of the Philippines around us. I hope that this treasure of ours could be preserved for the generations to come. I hope that we would not be detached, so we could reach out to more people and instill in them a deep sense of our history, the richness of our culture, and a deep sense of the very rich heritage that we have inherited from our forefathers.
It was a very exciting time. That's what I remember most. I was on a holiday and I got a frantic call. Where are you anyway? They have been looking for you. And I said, what about? Having a restoration force as big as Intramuros was at the time, didn't exist anywhere in the country. When we came into Intramuros to work, what are we restoring? We do not know. How did it look, except for the ruined walls? That's why we have to dig pictures and pictures and pictures just to be able to provide a background and tell people this is important, this part of the walls look like this. Everything was something that came to us by a calling, you'd say, that we have to do it right. Intramuros is a beautiful memory of the past. It is like a microcosm of all things good and bad. There are many good stories about Filipinos, people who headed the construction of the walls, and they were Indios. The carvers were Filipinos also. People should follow the regulations more, and that they should not seek exemption all the time. And this applies to both government, church, and private owners. I'm Esperanza Bunag Cartunton. I was hired, I would say, I was one of the first employed in the Intramuros administration structure, and that was pretty 1979. You have many people saying that Intramuros should not be preserved because it is a colonial memory and that should be erased. I don't think so. It represents failure. It represents achievement. So it's about time that our people should see Intramuros is not just a symbol of colonialization, but a symbol of our spirit to rise above that.
Intramuros is important because it is one destination, tourist destination in the city of Manila. And of course, this is a historical city. It is a city within a city because the schools are here, churches are here, institution, agencies, of course, the big churches here who always support the IA, and of course the training center who are here, the hospitals are within the city of Intramuros. My wish for Intramuros is orderly, clean city, and people should be in their perspective places. Like for instance, if hopefully in a couple of months or 3 months from now, the ISF will be relocated to resettlement site in Cavite or in Bulacan, because we want them to be in the respective homes. And of course, with that, Intramuros will rise again with this movement of informal settlers. We are not removing them from here because they are part of the community. They work here, they can come, they can live here, but they have to go to their respective permanent homes after resettlement.
And of course, I wish also that Intramuros will be fully developed in terms of vacant lot, property. The owners will have this plan to develop their property here in Intramuros so that there will be no blighted areas anymore around. My name is Marieta V. Aliaga. I started working here in Intramuros in 1983, and this will be my 35th year in Intramuros administration. As Chief of the Urban Planning, I am responsible for the monitoring of construction in and around Intramuros. We are also in charge of the processing of the Intramuros Development Clearance. Intramuros should be cherished, should be loved, and should be taken care of, because Intramuros is historical. We are part of the history of the Philippines.
Right, so it's already 3 o'clock, so we shall now start. Welcome everyone to the welcome everyone to the 36th episode of the Intramuros Learning Sessions. This is your host, Rancho Arcilla, and this episode is brought to you by the Intramuros Administration and the International Council on Monuments and Sites Philippines. And joining me today from ICOMOS Philippines as co-host is Mr. Gio Abcede. Gio?
Hello. Hello, welcome everyone. So I'm Gio Abcede, and for today I am your co-moderator for a very interesting discussion. So Rancho, do you like pancit?
Yes, I love them very much. It's actually kind of like the second staple after rice, no? One of our favorite as Filipinos. Why did you ask?
Well, it's good that you said that because today our topic is about pancit heritage. We have speakers from the University of Santo Tomas and from ICOMOS Philippines who map pancit from all over Luzon.
This is very interesting. So we look forward to this webinar. But first, before we start, maybe we can go over first the house rules. So I will share my screen and present some house rules for this Zoom session. Okay, for Zoom attendees, you may raise your questions via the Q&A button. And if you are viewing via Facebook, you may raise your questions in the comment section. Note that only those who have successfully registered and viewed on Zoom will be eligible to get a certificate, and the feedback form will be emailed to you after the sessions. The certificate will be sent within a week. And then finally, note that this webinar is recorded and that the recording shall be made permanently available in ILS social media channel.
Okay. Thank you, Rancho. So to introduce our first speaker, Avi Ben Andalecio. He is a researcher. He is currently a faculty member and a community development coordinator at the University of Santo Tomas College of Tourism and Hospitality Management. Avi has an MA in Public Administration from the University of Santo Tomas and a BA in Tourism Management from the Eastern University of the Philippines. He is currently pursuing a PhD in Public Administration in UST. A prolific researcher, Avi is well published in journals and other publications locally and internationally.
Thank you for that, Gio. On the other hand, our second speaker is Mr. Jame Monren Mercado. So Jame is a researcher. He is currently a research coordinator at the University of Santo Tomas College of Tourism and Hospitality Management, where he is also teaching cultural and heritage tourism. He has an MA in Cultural Studies from the University of Santo Tomas and a BS in Hospitality Management from the Colegio de San Juan de Letrán. A prolific researcher, Jame is well published in journals and other publications locally and internationally. He is at present a member of the International Council on Monuments and Sites, Philippines. Now, without further ado, Sir Jame and Avi Ben, we'd now like to call on you for the presentation proper.
Thank you very much, Sir Rancho and Sir Gio, for the warm introduction. No? Okay, so shall we start? All right, so I think my lead researcher is actually ready now. Later on, he will give us the meat and the heart of the presentation, or the study rather. So mabuhay, magandang araw po sa ating lahat. I hope you all have an amazing day. No? My name is Avi Andalecio, and with me is my lead researcher, Sir Jame Monren Mercado, and today we will be your tour guide and tour you around Luzon in search of the best pancit in the entire island. And who knows? No? So let's find out. But first, before we start, allow me to share something personal. So, a funny observation when I arrived here in our province 3 weeks ago. No? So about 3 weeks ago, my mother went to a party. So, birthday party. So, I asked her, "Mano yung handa?" And guess what? Siyempre, binanggit niya is pancit. And then 2 days ago, another funny story is that I was eating in an Italian restaurant, DOT-rated Italian restaurant here in the province of Romblon. So, a lady came in and asked if meron silang pancit. So, don't ask me about the sheer disappointment of the lady nung malaman niya na walang pancit na sinuserve. And then just last night in the prayer meeting of my parents, no, siyempre alam naman natin kung ano na yung handa. Natuwa lang ako pagkabukas ko ng pinto sa kusina. Siyempre, 2 varieties ng pancit ang aking nakita, bihon at canton. So, my dear friends, indeed, it is a manifestation that we Filipinos are all connected to this dish. No? Alam ko, in one way or another, meron kayong story about this kind of dish, no, in your own respective homes. So, from the Chinese, a dish was introduced to the early Filipinos, no? A dish that is normally offered during birthdays and other celebration here in the Philippines. A dish that is always connected to the tradition and belief that it is indeed pampahaba ng buhay or long life. A dish that is already part of the Filipino culinary tradition, pancit. A dish of celebration, a dish of tradition, a Filipino food.
that originates from the land of the Red Dragon. Today, it is known as a cultural icon and delicacy of our country. One group of violence, 8 regions, 20 provinces, 27 cities, 26 municipalities, 101 Pancit.
So halina't samahan niyo po kaming kumain, lasahan at langhapin ang Ysla de Panciteria, a preliminary study on the culinary heritage significance of pancit using the heritage documentation approach, the case of Luzon Island, the Philippines, by Mr. Monren, Mercado, and yours truly, Mr. Andalecio, from the College of Tourism and Hospitality Management of the University of Santo Tomas. All right, so basically, my dear friends, no, for those who are watching in their respective homes right now, and their houses, no, just to give you a brief background about this study. So this is basically awarded by the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, or Pambansang Komisyon para sa Kultura at Mga Sining. And nakakataba ng puso kasi personal para sa amin itong proyektong ito at napakadami namin na-discover. Later on, my lead researcher will give heart and soul into this project, no, into this presentation. Okay. Next slide, please. Basically, my dear friends, no, the very objective of this research is to map out all of the kinds of pancit in the Luzon Island, in the entire Luzon Island, and dig deeper into the culinary characteristics of each pancit, and of course, ultimately, to discover and rediscover the culinary heritage significance of each pancit that we have discovered. All right, so this qualitative study, my dear friends, no, explicates the culinary heritage significances of pancit in the entire island of Luzon, using the heritage documentation approach, no. And from that context, my dear friends, this paper highlights the different kinds and variations of pancit based on the cultural heritage and aspects of the community and its related characteristics, such as the raw ingredients, selling points, cooking equipment, and tools, no? Process of cooking, mamaya makikita natin yan, and the disposal and consumption and recycling of the waste. So it also highlights the culinary significance of the dish through its historical, spiritual, culinary, what else? Social, aesthetic, economic, agricultural, and symbolical aspects. And the researchers made use of the different theoretical frameworks, no, as we all know from the international and national cultural charters and conventions, such as the UNESCO 2003 Convention on the Safeguarding of Intangible Cultural Heritage. We also have the Australia Ecomos Bura Charter for Places and Cultural Significance, Getty Conservation Institute, Planning Process Methodology, and of course the National Cultural Heritage Act of 2009, or the Republic Act number 10066. And of course, the Culinary Mapping Dimensions by Santa Maria in 2016. Next slide. All right, so in this slide, my dear friends, you can see an overview of or the extent, no, na pinuntahan namin dito sa proyektong ito. No? In 20 provinces, no, we have 27 cities and 26 municipalities. No? And an impressive total of 101 pancit dishes were documented from the 8 regions of Luzon. So later, iisa-isahin natin yan. No? So among all regions of Luzon, no, the National Capital Region is the home of the highest number of pancit documented with 45 varieties. No? Mamaya pa, iisa-isahin po namin yan. Makikita natin kung ano yung pagkakaiba-iba nila, ano yung mga proseso ng pagluluto. Tingnan natin kung ano ba talaga yung pinakamasarap na pancit. Okay? So for the city level, no, the city of Manila got the highest of all the varieties. No? Meron po tayong 31 sa city of Manila. No? 31 pancit dishes. So this was evident, syempre, because of the strong influence of the Chinese community which developed the first China and, of course, no, if not the oldest Chinatown in the whole world, no, according to Chu in 2010. In the provincial context naman, no, kung para sa mga probinsyano at mga nakikinig ngayon, in the provincial context, no, the province of Cavite got the highest with 10 varieties of pancit. No? So according to Gegen in 2012, the province has evident Chinese communities that were developed through time by means of early trading and commerce. And while the municipalities naman po of Nabua, no, in Camarines Sur and Tanza in Cavite got the highest with 3 varieties each. All right. Next slide, please. All right. So with regard to the raw ingredients used, no, ito medyo sa tingin ko meron po tayo mga audiences now from the culinary sector, mga chefs, no, na nakikinig. With regard to the raw ingredients used naman po, there are different factors that influence the community to develop and provide appropriate ingredients for their own versions and varieties. For a good or a classic example of this, my dear friends, would be if you are going to ask someone or a person from Cavite, ano ba yung madalas nilang lahok or ingredients sa kanilang pancit? Siyempre, seafood, especially for those coastal areas. So ito yung classic example po nung binanggit natin kanina. These factors could either be of foreign or local influence, no? And then lastly, for my part, no, another slide please. Alright, so ito po may papakita natin, no, yung different types or different varieties of noodles na later on madidiscover natin, marirediscover natin kung ito pala yun, no? Ito pala yung lagi naming hinahanda, lagi sinaserve sa amin ng parents namin nung kami bata pa. And for our Chinese friends, ito pala yung madalas na hinahanda sa mga birthday parties during that time. Kapag may sakit, no? Ito yung madalas hinihigop, no? Those are the things na sana matulungan namin kayong kapag reminisce, no, specifically for our cultural background then. And with that, my dear friends, thank you very much and allow me to introduce to you my lead researcher for this project, Mr. Jame Monren Mercado. Sir?
Mabuhay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Intramuros administration, for allowing us to share this magnificent, at some point, heartwarming, comforting research on Philippine noodles, or what we call as pancit. A while ago, my partner, Sir Avi, shared to us the context of how we did the research, specifically on its methodologies, the theoretical frameworks used, and at some point, the background of what's this project all about. And by the way, thank you again to the National Commission for Culture and the Arts for this opportunity, for giving us this opportunity to research this magnificent food that we have. At this part, I would like to share with you the context of what are the common ingredients that we have for our pancits here in the Philippines, specifically in Luzon. Basically, the first thing that comes out in our mind is the type of noodles. Anong klaseng noodle ang ginagamit for a certain pancit dish? Meron tayong bihon, canton, miswa, meron tayong yung mga egg noodles na tinatawag. For some, they call it as Mickey. no? Yung mga matataba o mapapayat, or kaya yung flatten up, or kaya bilugin. Pero among all the pancit dishes that we've documented, it was highlighted that egg noodles are common, no, in the context of the Luzon Island. And at some point, it is at some point, no, associated with the published researches ni Feliz Santa Maria, ni Durin Gamboa Fernandez when it comes to the trading of the Chinese. I remember the context that one of the important or significant ingredients, no, na dinala sa atin ng mga Chinese was this noodle, no, yung component of the noodle used for certain dishes. And at some point, nakakatuwa din because this kind of noodle, no, nagbabago siya depende from the context of the area concerned, no, or kaya doon sa preference ng nagluluto. At some point, they've used other ingredients or their specific ingredients that they would like to incorporate. Just like pancit tikyano, this one, yung medyo pula, medyo bago sa paningin natin ito. This is in Batangas City, in the province of Batangas, wherein the owners used atsuete, no, to provide now this distinct color. And at some point, we've asked bakit niyo po ito nilalagyan ng atsuete, no? Ano po ang dahilan? By the way, that's an egg noodle, no? So, nung sinagot nila, sinabi nila na, basically, ang sabi ng nanay namin or ng lola namin, para mapaiba lang kami compare with the other panciterias na meron dito sa Batangas. As we all know, Batangas is really significant when it comes to lomi, mikigisado, no? The influence of the Lipeños, to be specific, by Tokim Eng, doon nagsimula, no, ang context ng Batangas when it comes to noodle dishes. And for this ones, yun nga sa pancitikyan, they would like to at some point magbago naman sila ng konti just to have now their unique identity. At some point, there are also changes, no, when it comes to the context of noodle. When we documented some noodles in the southern Tagalog region, just like Pancit Calabuco in San Pablo City, Laguna, they've used now buko meats or yung strips of buko. And at some point, it is associated definitely with their environmental context, with their agricultural context, no? So, at some point, may context of being healthy. At some point, may context of being, why not to use, no, alternative ingredient from the normal pancit or from the normal noodle. So they've used now coconut or buko, which is very significant in the southern Tagalog region, specifically in Quezon and also here in Laguna. Aside from the noodles, makita natin yung konteksto of using seafoods as well. Katulad ng sinabi ng aking partner, si Sir Avi, it depends now to the area, to the geographical context of the destination concerned. If they are located near the shoreline areas or kaya coastal areas, normally mapapansin mo ito na meron silang component of using seafood in their food, not only for pancit but also for other dishes in their area. Just like, for example, these are hibe, maliliit na hipon sa Rizal, sa Angono. They have this, what they call as laksa. No? Nung una namin siyang narinig, laksa, is that the noodle similar from the Singaporeans or from the Malay, yung laksa which is coconut milk? Hindi pala. Nagulat na lang kami. It's a sotanghon dish, no? Stir-fried sotanghon with different kinds of vegetables. And then they're using now this hibe, mga small shrimps, coming from Laguna de Bay. Kasi malapit sila doon. May coastal area sila in the Laguna Bay area. So, ang ibig sabihin pala sa kanila ng laksa ay sari-sari, no? Halo-halo. And ang very insignificant din dito kung ano yung meron sila, the available agricultural resources from their backyards or from the kumares or from the kapitbahays like talong, sitaw, kalabasa, yun ang hinahalo. Para siyang at some point, no, kung iisipin mo, para siyang pakbet plus pancit. No, specifically sotanghon ang ginagamit. And then yung pampalasa, which is this one, yung small shrimps or yung hibe. Aside from that, no, in Bataan, which is, as we all know, malaki ang kanilang coastal areas. In Orion and Orani, this one is in Orion, no, they're using now adobong pusit, no, as one of their flavorings, no, their component for flavor in their pancit in pancit lublog. And also we have from the municipality of Orion, Orani, na gumagamit naman sila ng hibi din, pero this one para siyang yung sa bagoong, pero hindi siya pinaalat. So ano lang siya, stir fried lang siya in hot oil or fat, and then yun na yung inilalagay dito. Because nung tinanong namin sila, it is typically known, no, dun sa areas nila, specifically sa mga coastal areas ng Bataan. Aside from the component of seafood, definitely Filipinos love to eat pork or any meats. Now, the component of extracting now juices and fats coming from this meat, either we use it as sabaw, or we call it also as caldo, no, a Spanish word which means poor man's soup, no, dahil during that time ito lang yung kaya, no, ng mga Filipinos. They boiled it, and then yung mismong sabaw, just to extract now the flavor of the pork, yun yung kinakain, no, specifically that stock. Pero significantly, no, from a poor man's soup siya ngayon yung kinoconsidered natin as very vital, no, in flavoring our pancit dishes. So aside from extracting now the flavor by means of having a stock, ginagawa din siya as toppings, just like in pancit in Maykawayan, Bulacan, in Maykawayan City, Bulacan, tawag nila itong pancit Maykawayan or kaya pancit. Parang nagkaroon pa sila ng new terminology to capture now new kumbaga the new generation, no, to eat it. Ang tawag nila dito pancit, this is it, pancit, no. Aside from that, mismong hinahalo siya, ginigisa siya sa pancit, no, having this component of either fat, no, belly, or kaya kasim, o kaya yung mukha ng baboy. They chop it smaller pieces or strips and then cook it in together with the pancit. And at some point, ito, yung nakikita natin, this one is from beef, no, from baka. Ito yung pancit kinalas, no, sa Naga City in Camarines Sur. So from them, no, ang kinalas, which means tanggalin mo, no, from the bone, kalasin mo yung meat from the bone. So ang ginagawa nila dito, they boiled it for how many hours, no, and then pag malambot na siya, then that's the time na pag may order, kakalas ngayon sila ng mga meats coming from that bone, and they put it now into the pancit. So basically, this is the common context on how we integrate now your meats or our meats now, specifically pork, no, in our pancit dishes. But basically, no, it is in the context of providing now flavor, meaty flavor in our dishes. Then we have also chicken, no. For example, yung Miki in Batac City, in Ilocos Norte. So yung kanilang kilalang Miki stalls, no, near the river area sa may downtown ng Batac City, wherein you can eat this one with chicken sauteed in atsuete, dahil yun yung madami-dami sa kanila, no, na agricultural domestic animal, no, na available within the area. That's why they incorporated it, no, into their dishes, and specifically for this noodle. And then it is paired with their well-known Iloco empanada, no. So parang laging partner yung dalawa. And then we have also the context of using spices, no, yung condiments or kaya yung providing now new flavor, no, na hindi masyadong, at some point hindi talaga siya Filipino in its original context, but because nga of the context of acculturation, we've embraced it, and at some point the community the community realized that this is already part of our culinary culture. Just like using chilies, no, in Bicol region, merong kaming isang pancit on the document, yung Pancit Bicol Express in Albay, that they incorporated their main dish, yung kanilang signature dish, which is known to be very spicy. Tapos yun yung isinasama nila sa kanilang Mickey noodles, which is white in color. Aside from that, meron din sa Apari, Cagayan, no, the northern part tip, quote-unquote, of Luzon Island, yung kanilang Mickey niladit, no? So, normally, the people there, yung mga Cagayanons, no, they put now chilies. Ang ginagawa nila dito, pinapatuyo nila yung fresh chilies, no, and then pagka ganito na yung kanyang appearance, no, talagang na-dehydrate lahat ng water content of this chili, yun ngayon yung pinaprocess and make it as chili powder, as in talagang this is the real chili powder. So the usage of atsuete and this too, no, nakita din namin yung dalawang significant pancits that we have here na influenced by the Vietnamese. No, we have two Vietnamese refugee camps here in Luzon. The first one is in Morong in Bataan, and then we have also in Puerto Princesa City, Palawan. So itong dalawang lugar na ito, dahil nga meron sila mga Vietnamese refugees due to the Vietnamese War, the exchanges of culture now, yung cross-cultural exchange is very significant in the area of concern. In Bataan, they have what they call as hutyu, and then in Puerto Princesa, meron silang chowlong. No? So, the usage now of rice noodles, no, with soup, and then makikita mo lagi na once that they put now the noodle, meron ding kasama ka laging side dish or the sidings now, like bay leaves, dito, yung soybean sprouts, no, at saka itong I forgot the name of these leaves. Nakalimutan ko siya. But this one is really significant, no, in the context of providing ng new flavor. Nung tinatanong namin yung community, saan po kayo kumukuha nito? Kasi this is not normal in our agricultural area, no? Hindi ito normal na tanim, ito yung ginagamit sa pagkain natin. Well, basically, because of these Vietnamese refugees, no, sila yung nag-influence, no, to plant now these plants, no, and these herbs, and then they are now incorporating it with their dish. So may nagturo ng mga Vietnamese to the Filipinos there, no, na kung paano lutuin, and at some point nagustuhan nila yung lasa. Now, hindi siya very strong, no? Hindi alam natin sa Vietnamese cuisine, very strong yung kanilang herb, very strong yung kanilang yung earthiness, no, ng mga herbs and spices na nilalagay doon sa pagkain. Ang napansin namin dito sa dalawang probinsya, very light lang siya, and it relates now to the common palate of the Filipinos, which is maalat, no, na medyo maanghang, ma-peppery ng onte, and then purely coming yung essence of the meat will be coming from the meat, no, either from pork or from chicken. Another significant context is at some point medyo meron kami na document ng mga medyo weird, no, na nangyayari pala to, or kaya meron pala nito in the Philippines, specifically in Luzon. We have pancit bakla or alanganin, no, in Bukawe, Bulacan. We have friends here from Bulacan. Ito ay tinawag na alanganin or bakla kasi para siyang hindi mo alam or at some point hindi mo siya makategorize at some point if it is a stir-fried bihon noodle or a sopas or a mami. No, medyo masabaw, pero the context of cooking it and even eating it and even the appearance at some point para siyang pancit bihon gisado lang. Now, what is also significant with this one is they put now evaporated milk. No, kaya siya at some point nagkakaroon ngayon ng context na is it a sopas na hindi gumagamit ng elbow macaroni but you're using bihon and even egg noodle Mickey. So the story behind this one, no, during that time that they're cooking this dish, no, na stir-fried bihon lang talaga, natapig, no, yung isang baso, no, or itong gatas ng kalabaw doon mismo sa niluluto. And at some point the cook now medyo nataranta, hindi niya alam kung anong gagawin because nga meron niyang yung component ng gatas na nasama dun sa pancit. But eventually when they eat it, when they experience eating it na, nagkaroon ngayon ng some point, oh, okay naman pala siya, masarap pala siya. And what's significant with this one, ano siya, very homey, no? Yung kanilang panciteria. The ground floor is panciteria, and then the upper floor at some point din yung kanilang bahay, then may tumitira din sa taas. At saka gumagamit pa sila dito ng pugon, no? Which is really significant, nakakatuwa. Another kind of pancit here, pancit masyang in San Pedro City, Laguna, lalagyan nila ng ketchup. No, talagang hindi po pwedeng kainin to ng walang ketchup. The story behind this one, the owner, si Aling Masyang, naglalagay siya ng lechong kawali. So, deep-fried pork liempo. No? So, yun yung toppings niya dito with this really greasy, meaty, ginisang pancit bihon. No? So, just try to imagine and also take a sip, no, in your palate yung sinasabi ko. Syempre ang mga Pinoy, I remember the researchers from Micaela Phoenix from Culinary book, no, the context of having sausawan, yung laging meron tayong condiment as Filipinos. This is really vital, no? This is at some point really connected with that particular context, no? Dahil nga sa ito ay deep-fried na lechong kawali, we wanted na meron sana may sausawan. And the available sausawan during that time ay ketchup. So, nung una, hihingi sila ng platito. Then they put now the ketchup there. Tapos, kakainin nila ng separate. Pero naisip ng mga tao, and even noong may-ari, bakit magdadagdag tayo ng hugasin? So, at some point, dagdag hugasin sa kanila. And for the people na nagtatry naman nito, at some point, parang isa lang naman yan eh. You eat it na kasama na lahat, no? Kumbaga, lahat yan papasok sa tiyan. No? So, what they did, no, for the San Pedronians, no, people from San Pedro, dinrizzle ngayon nila yung ketchup dito sa pancit. And then, yung egg actually normal na sa kanila yan. It's already part of the culinary culture of eating pancit masyang. So, yun. Doon na-develop yung context of putting up now this sweet and spicy ketchup. No? Yung tamis-anghang na sinasabi nila. But eventually, due to inflation, no, medyo nagmahal ang baboy and all. And then, yung isang platong pancit ay nasa 35 pesos. Medyo costly sa kanila. What they did, they changed now the topping. And gumamit sila ng mas cheaper meat, which is balun-balunan ng manok. Pero at some point, that balun-balunan ng manok, inadobo nila. And then yun ngayon yung nilalagay dito, which is nagbibigay pa ng mas richer flavor. Kala ng mga tao, mawawala na yung ketchup. Pero, there it is. Naandyan pa rin ang ketchup until now. So, this is an example of how we change the culinary context. Now, as we all know, this is Chinese embedded to us, this kind of culinary dish. But definitely, naandito ngayon ang kultura at tradisyon ng mga Pilipino. No? Naandito ngayon yung context so that we've changed it and make it as Filipino already. So, hindi na nila pinalitan. So, it's already a tradition to them na mayroong ketchup. May bottle of ketchup dyan sa kanilang karinderya, dun sa kanilang panciteria, and then they drizzle now the ketchup dun sa pancit. The third one, ito yung pancit lusay. This is an Ilocano dish, no, in Lawag City, Ilocos Norte. So, lusay in Ilocano is overcooked. No, dahil yung noodle na ginagamit nila dito, at some point, you will not blanch it already. Or you will not cook it already in hot water. Kasi, number one, luto na siya, no? Available, kumbaga ready to eat na siya. And number two, if you will cook it pa, mas ma-overcook siya. Medyo mushy siya, medyo dikit-dikit siya, no? na kind of noodle. So, ang pancit lusay is at some point a salad dish, no? At salad noodle dish, wherein magkailangan may component ka of a flavoring plus a meat, no? To have now the noodle. Normally, no, again, dito papasok yung Filipino flavor. Gumagamit sila ng KBL as their basic pampalasa. KBL stands for kamatis, bagoong, and lasuna. So, kamatis, bagoong, and then you have the red onion. Yun yung isinasama. Or kaya yung even the dahon ng sibuyas. Yun yung sinasama. And then, Doon sa meat component, depende daw kung anong available. Pero normally, kung meron kang longganisang Iloco, then you put it. Kung meron ka namang sardinas, yun ang ilalagay mo. Or kung meron kang corned beef, yun ang ilalagay mo. Or spam, yun ang ilalagay mo. So, that's now the context of the availability of the resources that you have, plus now the basic culinary context na meron dun sa lugar. So, nabuo ang isang pagkain. No? Another group of Filipino noodles, no, meron tayong oil and fat, fruit, vegetable, and fungi that we included, thickening agent, dairy produce, grains, no, even grains and byproduct, food preservatives and additives, and others. So, basically, normal natin nakikita sa mga pancit natin that we put vegetables. The basic vegetables are repolyo, carrots, bagu beans. Yun yung normally mo makita, no, na it is really present, no, in the context of your pancit. But what we discovered also is again the context of the availability of resources and the environment na meron sila. Just like this one, itong nasa baba, that is upo, no? When we documented the Pancit Sabsab or Pancit ni Mang Biko sa Taal, Batangas, hinighlight doon ni Mr. Montenegro yung context of using now upo, no? Yung upo kasi yun yung available sa kanilang mga backyard, no, sa kanilang mga taniman. And ang context is this is now the vegetable that we can use, no, for our pancit because this is available within our area. Ito yung normal na sinasaka, kinukuha ng mga farmers, no, coming from our backyards and even from our farmlands. So this is one example of how you connect the context of pancit with your agricultural products available. At some point, hindi pa rin nagbabago siya until now. We have Pancit Anaw in Anaw, Tarlac, no? Ang maganda dito, ina-highlight nila yung community participation at saka community resources. Every ingredient na meron dito sa pancit na ito, nanggagaling sa bawat barangay. Yung barangay na to, si Mushroom ang nagpo-produce. Kaya naisip namin yun ang ilagay. Yung barangay na to, sila naman yung sa noodle kasi mas kilala sila doon because natulungan sila ng DOST at saka ng DTI. So sila yung nakakapag-produce ng pancit. So sila yung bahala dito. The other one, yung mga bell peppers, chili peppers, and even yung bawang at saka sibuyas galing dito sa barangay na to. Then doon yun ilalagay. So even up to now, no, na andun yung context of using now, what resources do you have in the area of concern? Another thing is ito, paggamit ng at some point hindi tayo guilty dito, no? Carbs plus carbs is equals to sarap, no? We have two pancits documented that they used rice, no? And then they need to top it with pancit tapos an ulam, no? So pancit ulam in San Jose City in Nueva Ecija, and then kumo in Odyongan, Romblon, no, mula dun sa bayan ng aking partner. Meron silang kilalang pancit doon. So, itong dalawang pancit na ito, basically, it now connects with the socio-cultural entity, with the social context, no, of the community concern. Nabuo, for example, ang pancit ulam in San Jose City, in Nueva Ecija, because there are farmers, tsaka yung mga tricycle drivers, jeepney drivers, who went to a karinderya. And dahil nga very cheap, no, yung kanilang kumbaga yung cost or yung budget nila when it comes to food, no, due to the context of the expense, no, for their families. So ang ginagawa nila dito para makatipid, kuha sila or magsasabi sila ng kaunting ulam plus partner it with pancit. No, ganun yung nangyayari. So sinasabi nila ito dun sa mga karinderya at ito yung normal, no, na ginagawa nila. They cook with pancit na walang gulay, and then syempre they cook ulam plus yung kanin. So partner. The context of eating pancit as ulam or viand is really significant with us. If you can remember the stories that I've told you about the flavor, no, that we would like to extract now and introduce it now dun sa bland flavor o yung bland pancit that you have. I guess yun yung naging context natin when it comes to using it or making it as a viand. Kasi malasa siya. No? Malasa ang pagkain. Malasa yung pancit. It's like an ulam for us. Yung lasa niya coming from meat, from seafood, or from the vegetables. Yun yung yung context of doing it as an ulam. Yung choices of viand, yung toppings na to, depende dun sa availability ng karinderya. May sisig, may mechado, may menudo, may caldereta, may dinuguan. So, yun yung po pwedeng gawin no, ng mga kakain or pipili sila from the turo-turo or from the karinderya. So, this one is roughly about 30 to 35 pesos, depende sa ulam. No? Then, yung kumo, ang story naman nito, it was evolved because of yung concern ng cook or yung mga nagbebenta sa mga estudyante. Kasi yung early carinderias who offered this one, malapit sila doon sa Odyongan School, no, sa public school ng Odyongan. So ang kanilang market ay mga bata. So alam naman natin ang kanilang kayang gastusin lang ay ganito, maliliit na presyo. So pwede ka makapagkumo with 15 to 20 pesos. No? Meron kang kanin, meron kang pancit na Mickey. Plus, ang maganda dito, no, pwede kang makakuha ng baka. No? Na baka, na lutong baka. Either it is mechado or kaya ito ay caldereta na you can top it with your kumo. So, again, this too reflects now the social entities, you know, the social realities that we have in our communities. This one is another yung context of how we can associate the environment, no? Just like Pancit Bicol Express that I've shared to you a while ago in Albay, wherein they use now yung significant and identity ng Bicolanos, which is Pancit, the Bicol Express, no? Wherein it is cooked with coconut milk, with chilies, no? Hanggang magmamantika siya. And then yun yung isasama nila doon sa kanilang Mickey noodle, which is color white. So, the association of the existing culinary culture and then merge it with the pancit. And then, in the context of selling and selling points, no, normally, the documentation that we did, normally, ang mga pansiterías, ang individual persons or communities would like to buy their products from palengkes or from wet markets. So basically, the importance of having fresh ingredients, yung mamimili daw sila ng mga madaling araw, yung pagputok no ng ingay from the palengkes from 3 a.m. up to 5 a.m. na andun sila para kumuha ng fresh ingredients kasi bagong bagsak, no? And then the context also of cheap, no, materials or cheap ingredients na pwede nilang magamit mula dito. Unlike with buying now ingredients from supermarkets. When it comes to process of cooking, if it is a stir-fried dish, no, they're using hot oil or fat, no, stir-frying is really basic now in cooking pancit. And then if it is a soup dish na pagkain or pancit, then definitely boiling, simmering, and even blanching at some point, no, if they would like to cook the noodles first or the vegetable first before they put it up as one pancit dish. So yun yung normal na ginagamit as process of cooking. When it comes to equipments, no, or the cooking materials used for this, nakakatuwang isipin na number one, marami sa atin dito sa Luzon that we would like to cook the fresh ingredients, offer fresh ingredients or fresh noodles to be specific. No? Yung katulad nga kanina na na-share ko, we would like, or pansiteria owners or even individuals would like to get fresh ingredients from palengke. And even for noodles, gusto nila at some point fresh noodle ingredient pa din ang gagamitin. So, that's why merong mga pansiteria, just like in Ilocos, they're using yung kabayo. And even in Lipa City in Batangas, no, for their lomi, gumagamit sila ng kabayo for kneading the dough kasi medyo malakihan yan. Hindi yan normally lang na parang 1 kilo of flour. Hindi kakayanan ng isang tao. That's why very significant sa kanila itong material na ito, no? Kabayo, if you can see in the picture, kasi para kang nangangabayo, no? It's like you're riding a horse, no? So, at some point, parang mapapatalon lang siya ng onte, no? Para ma-push na yung dough, no? Yung the normal thing that we're doing if we're kneading the dough. And then in some areas, just like in Apari, in Cagayan, pinapabilad nila yung flattened dough sa araw. At some point, ito yung context that we would like to lessen now yung pagkakaroon ng overcooked noodle once that we cook it. Kasi if you can notice, once that we cook the dough and then create now a noodle or a pasta, pag fresh pasta yan at nilubog mo sa mainit na tubig, well, maganda siya at some point because it's really fresh. But then, hanggang tumagal-tagal siya, maglalabsak siya, ma-overcook siya. Unlike with dried noodles, no, at some point pinatuyo mo muna siya ng onte kasi you extract now the water content of your dough. So, pagka nilagay mo ngayon dun sa mismong kumukulong tubig, papasok ngayon yung bagong tubig dun sa inyong noodles. And it will definitely give you a firmer and also bitier na noodles compared with the ones with fresh. Kasi meron siyang liquid pa or meron pa siyang water content. Another is at some point the usage pa din of modern technologies. No, meron na kasi syempre yung madamihan yung production due to the fact that there are a lot of people who would like to eat it immediately. So, yun yung kumbaga their adjustment. No? They're using now modern technologies. No? And also, we have here, meron pa ding mga pansiteria, katulad ng shinare ko sa inyo kanina, that they're using pugon. Just like in Bukawi and Bulacan for their pansit bakla or alanganin. We have also in Tuguegarao City, no, in Cagayan, for their batil patong, yung kanilang triangle restaurant doon or pansiteria. Meron din all the way from Abra, no, in Bangged, sa ating mga kapatid from the Cordilleras. Meron silang tinatawag ng Abramiki. This one, gumagamit pa sila, mayroon isang pansiteria doon that they're using pugon. And even, this one is not pugon actually, pero this is a makeshift na, pero they are using pa din coal or they're using wood. This one is in Apari in Cagayan. Then, meron ditong isang kultura na, ito yung nakakalungkot, no? May kultura sa Morong, Rizal. Ang tawag nila dito ay pancit bangaw. No? Kasi medyo, pag nakita mo yung soup dish na yon sa palengke na ino-offer, meron ka makikita na parang lumulutang na bangaw. It's because medyo malalaki yung pepper, no, na nilalagay nila dito, o yung paminta. So, meron doon na kilalang maker na itong pansit bangaw na ito na gumagamit dati ng pugon. Pero because of the fact na unang-una matanda na siya. And number two, walang nakamana coming from her sons and daughters kasi meron silang mga gustong gawing iba. Ang nakamana ay pamangkin. Ngayon yung pamangkin, nakaisip siya ng mas modern way of cooking it and mas faster. No, more faster compared with this one. Kasi, syempre, the context of putting now the wood, apoy mo pa yun and all. Compare with this one, you're using now gasol or fuel, so mas convenient compared with using this one. And this is one thing that we need to see and to reflect, no, as we are dealing with this kind of research. How can we safeguard, no, the context of this kind of cultural identities of food? Just like this one. No, nawala tuloy yung konteksto of using pugon in Morong Rizal. And ang nakakatuwa lang, dun sa bahay nila, andyan siya. No? Itong nasa babang to. This one. Yun nga lang, nung pumunta kami dito, nakakalungkot kasi pinagpatong-patungan na siya ng kung ano-ano. No? So, sinabihan lang namin na pwede po ba nating tanggalin so that we can take a photo of your pugon. So, natanggal namin lahat, nilinis namin. So, ito siya. And nakakapanghinayang na hindi na siya ginagamit. No? And what's significant with this one also, and actually nakita din namin ito here in Tuguegarao City, yung kanilang wok is permanently attached to the pugon. No? Talagang nakasementado, sementado siya. If you can remember the context of this food. No, pancit is a fast food, no, something that we can cook quickly. No, from the word yan, esit. So, yung context of cooking it immediately, kailangan may available kaagad, no, na lutuan. No, that's why hindi na nila tinatanggal ito. So, ang linis din dyan din ginagawa. And then we have also this one, no, the context of how we consume our pancit dishes, from the utensils to takeaways, from the different sauces, and even food pairing, no, that we are including. When it comes to what we call the utensils, definitely nowadays we're using spoon, fork, plate, bowl, no, and even saucer for sauces kasi meron kami mga document na meron separate sauce siya. But, no, meron doong context pa rin of using the banana leaves and paper. No? So, just like pancit hab-hab, no, in Ilocban, Quezon, pancit sab-sab, or pancit timang biko in Taal, Batangas. Pero, meron pa din na mas, at some point, ito na siguro yung influence of commercialization or the context of innovation, no? Wherein, gumagamit ngayon sila, isang restaurant ang nakitaan namin na gumagamit ng small wok. No, talaga nagpagawa daw sila nito para lang daw dito sa pancit na ito. So this one is yung pancit kalabuko din, no, na share ko sa inyo in San Pablo City, Laguna. So they're using now this small wok, parang very appealing siya, and also the context na nakikita mo pa rin that the pancit is being prepared in a wok, no, or a very shallow dish. We have also the context of taking it out, no, pasalubong for your family and for your friends, no. Normally nowadays we're using plastic, microwavable containers, but no, nakakatuwang isipin na may tatlo pa rin na areas that we've documented that they're using now the dahon ng saging and paper material. We have pancit puso in Cavite City, in the province of Cavite. We have also yung pancit ni Mang Biko or pancit Biko in Taal, Batangas. And then we have pancit canton, no, in Buwak, Marinduque. So itong tatlong ito, they're using pa din the context of what they call balisungsong shape. No, it's a cone-shaped container na ito yung ginagamit ngayon for them to take it out, no, for specifically for one serving. Isang cone is equal to one serving and good for an individual consumption talaga. Then we have also the context of putting now additional flavor, and specifically yung sour component. Normally we're using calamansi, no, in the researches also of Michaela Phoenix, no, yung context of Filipino food, no, our normal palate is concentrated on the sour palate. Na we would like na merong konting asim, no. That's why in adobo we put, or the context of putting suka, aside from it is one way on how you preserve food, pero ito din yung context of that we've learned it to eat with sour ingredient. And then for other pancit dishes, we have pancit puso na gumagamit sila ng puso ng saging, kaya siya tinawag na pancit puso because of the puso ng saging na kinilaw in a brine solution, no, vinegar, water, may konti siyang asukal, and then may konting pepper and asin. So yun ngayon yung inilalagay dito. For pancit choco and sutinta, basically coming from Cavite City and some parts in Tanza, now in-offer siya sa Silang Cavite, no? So gumagamit sila ng kalamyas or kamyas because of the fact na it is already a tradition for them not to use calamansi, but kumbaga mas madami silang produce of kalamyas or kamyas, no, within the area. Then yung shinare ko kanina, the innovative way of using ketchup, and then this one, ganun din katulad ng puso, but this one naman ay papaya shreds. Na niluto siya with suka and also with fish. So yan yung pinapan-toppings nila. And definitely, hindi tayo napipirme with one plate only while we are eating. Either it is a breakfast, lunch, dinner, or merienda. We would like to pair food, no, or we would like to eat different kinds of food in one single time. That's why ito lumabas, no? Very significant na merong kakanin or different kinds of rice cakes which are available in the area of concern, even breads, siopaw, the context of using now syempre yung kanin to pair it with your pancit as viand, naandito, no? Kompleto siya. And normally, ang lumalabas lang talaga is that yung context of your available food, no, within your area of concern. Kung kilala kayo or mas kilala ang inyong community, for example in Ilocos with this kind of empanadang Iloco, yun yung pinair nila with Mickey, no? The context of having now this fried empanada together with their soup noodle dish. Or yung context naman of katulad nitong almondigas, no, from Cavite City. Dahil nga siya ay miswa soup, no, with meatballs, at siya ay normally kinakain pagka may sakit ka, or kaya tag-ulan, or kaya kung gusto mo lang magkaroon ng hot soup during your lunch or dinner, medyo bland siya ng onte, no, hindi siya ganun ka-flavorful, kaalat. That's why naisip ng mga tao na to pair it with some salty or at some point more flavor, just like isda or fried fish, and even yung mga dried dilis nila na fried din. So this is one way on how we pair, no, the context of food, no, with another food that we have. In the context of the significance of this dish, no, napaka-rich niya when it comes to its historical, spiritual, culinary, social, aesthetic, economic, agricultural, and symbolical. Mula dun sa mga na-share ko sa inyo kanina. Well, definitely, according to Mercado and even in Zerudo from 2018 and from 2019 researches, pancit in the Philippines is an acculturated dish coming from a foreign entity and culture, specifically from the Chinese. So it was started during the trading period, and the context also of highlighting now the posts of different communities, no, joining together with these Chinese traders and to come up now with something like a dish that would contribute now or to symbolize now that emerging cross-cultural exchange. Faith and religion are also integrated as it is already part of the lifestyle of the Filipinos. For most of the panciterias, as part of their tradition, offering a prayer or thanksgiving to God is a must for guidance before they start their operation. A day without it will not be complete for most of these people. For Filipinos also, pancit is an everyday food, as what I've told to you a while ago. Either it is a breakfast, lunch, dinner, or a snack. Either morning or afternoon snack. On the other hand, at some point, it is considered to be a comfort food. At isa ito sa mga lagi mong hinihingi or at some point inaasam, no? Just like our overseas Filipino workers or OFWs who are enticed in cooking and buying or eating this kind of food. It is already staple to different kinds of events, from birthdays and even for wakes. No? At some point, medyo contradicting siya kasi meron tayong kultura na pancit is for long life pero hinahanda mo siya during patay. We have one which is kalandrakas in Cavite City and some parts in the coastal area of Cavite, wherein kalandrakas came from the word kalandra, which means ito yung parang vehicle, no, na inilalagay mo yung patay, yung corpse, bago siya iburol, pinaparada mo siya sa community. Now, as a sign of respect and also kumbaga a sign of your condolence now to the community, to the family na namatayan, naglalagay ngayon sila ng kanilang mga produce, either seafood or kaya vegetable, doon sa kalandra habang siya ay pumaparada. Once na bumalik ngayon or na dumating na ngayon yung kalandra, yung patay doon sa bahay, kukunin nila lahat yung mga naibigay, and then they will cook it and serve it now to those people na nakikiramay. So, ang nangyayari dito, normally, pancit ang nakikita with different kinds also of vegetables. Just like laksa, na merong sitaw, may kalabasa, merong okra, pero sotanghon dish. And meron din silang kalandra na may sabaw. No, normally yung kanilang sopas, they call it already as calandra. So at some point, this is another thing, no, another innovation in the context of our cultural values. No, dahil ito na yung normal na inihahanda, they incorporated already and called it already as calandrakas. Pancit significantly influenced almost every eatery and fancy restaurants in Luzon Island. In every food establishments in the country, pancit is served in another way or around, from soup-based to stir-fried dishes. Take pancit ulam from San Jose and Nueva Ecija, for instance, wherein it is a complete staple food from a Novo Ecijano context. So yung sabi ko sa inyo, it's like an ulam for them. It's like a comfort food for them, or a normal food for them. Many agricultural enterprises in the Philippines were developed because of these, at some point, absolute pancit's influence, no? Specifically in the diffusion of it to the market. Livestocks from Carabao meat of Tuguegarao in Cagayan, tinapa or dried fish or goods in Monren City for NCR, shrimp harvesting at some point in Rizal Province, Rizal Province and even in Malabon, for the usage of their bamboo shoots or labong. And then yung upor, yung bottle gourd na sinabi ko kanina from Batangas Province, the usage of patola, fermented shrimp paste, kalamyas or kamyas, and even swahe production in Cavite Province made their respective cities and provinces a farming attraction, and it is also an agricultural epicenter for this particular kind of resources. And it was already associated now with their pancit traditions. Another thing that we've noticed is the origin of names of these different dishes, no, yung pancit dishes. Na normally saan ba natin nakukuha yung pangalan, no, ng ating mga pancit? When we've identified now all of the pancit names, nakita namin ito. Normally, pinapangalan natin siya kung ano yung pangalan ng noodle. For example, Mickey in Batak City in Ilocos Norte, because they're using now Mickey noodles. Characteristics of the noodle dish, yung pancit lusay na shinare ko sa inyo, which means overcooked, no, in Lawag City in Ilocos Norte. Process of cooking, no, how you cook it. Mickey niladit, no, from Apari, Cagayan, niladit or ladit coming from the word niladit, which means flatten or to flatten. Yung kaninang nakikita ninyo na fina-flatten at pinapatuyo sa araw. So doon nanggaling yung pangalan. Or pancit pinagulong in Marikina City, which means to roll it out in very hot wok. Kasi medyo gusto nila dito yung medyo may yung tinatawag nating tutong, no? Medyo nagto-toast yung pancit. So ang ginagawa nila dito, pagkaluto ng pancit, pinapainit nila ng sobrang init yung wok with a very small amount of oil, and then inilalagay ulit yung cooked pancit, and then hinahayaan lang nila na mailuto siya hanggang magkaroon ngayon ng toasty parts. Process of consumption or eating, just like pancit sabsab, which means eating it directly using your mouth in Taal, Batangas. And from Blukban, hab-hab naman ang tawag nila, which is the same, using now your mouth for eating it. Important personality, just like Pancit Henoy, no, named after General Emilio Aguinaldo from Kawit and even Cavite City. Ito kasi yung isa sa mga naging favorite food, no, ni General Emilio Aguinaldo, wherein napakadaming gulay, no. Actually parang masasabi mo chop suey ba to o pansit, no? Kasi naging favorite siya ni General Emilio Aguinaldo because meron siyang problema sa kanyang panunaw, no, sa kanyang digestive system. So napakaganda, or at some point very strategic for him to eat this one, no, to at some point to give him comfort dahil medyo favorite niya din ang pancit, pero hindi niya nako-compromise yung health niya. Pancit Masyang, nickname of the person who offered or invented the pancit dish, which is si Manang Masyang. Specific ingredients or component like almondigas, coming from the word albondigas, which means meatballs. Then we have associated material, just like yung shinare ko sa inyo na kalandrakas, which means coming from the word kalandra, for a vehicle used to transport the corpse. And then, yung name of the place or area of concern. Pancit Malabon, Pancit San Juan, Pancit May Kawayan. So, ina-associate natin to create now an identity, no, for your place and also for your pancit. in general, no, based from this research that we've done, we've realized that number one, it is already there, no, that pancit is an acculturated dish from the Chinese. Then when the Chinese now, yung mga traders natin, from the early periods down to the time of the early 50s and 60s, no, nang pupunta ngayon sila sa different areas dito sa Luzon, na-incorporate na nila ito, na-share nila ito doon sa kung anong meron doon sa lugar. And because of this, it really highlights now the context of regionalism, no, coming from this food. No, it was embraced by the community. It was, kumbaga at some point, open arms and heart that they've realized that it is at some point a really good dish. Now, the context of how we change something, no, to our food, no, specifically from this acculturated food, para magkaroon ng Filipino tastes. We indigenized it, the indigenization of your food, using now the materials or the crops available within your area, from the waters, from your farm areas, from your domestic farmlands. No, yun yung ini-incorporate natin with the dish. And due to the fact na pinatagal natin ang pagkain sa ating komunidad, sa ating kultura, it provides now different significances from its history, from its cultural, culinary context, from its spiritual, agricultural context. So, na-embed at it is already part of our everyday lifestyle. Now, if you would like to check the component, no, the specifics of this research, the research was already published in the Journal of Ethnic Foods by Springer. So this is a Q1 journal publication. So this is under Anthropology and Cultural Studies, Q1. So if you would like to check, no, you can access it. It is free, no, open access siya. It is free for everyone. Now, we would like to share with you some of our video documentation. Unang-una mula sa konteksto ng pancit, yung mismong noodle. Okay, so this one is in Lawag City in Ilocos Norte. Sa mga masaselan, siguro masasabi nyo, parang andumi, parang hinahawakan lang pala ng ganon, no? Coming from the pugon, no? Doon nila niluluto yung fresh noodle na ginawa nila. And then binabagsak nila dito para tumuyo or at some point lumamig, no? Tapos nilalagyan nila ng mantika para hindi magdikit-dikit. So they snapped it kasi yun yung way on how to release now the heat, no, coming from the noodle. Tapos meron diyang ventilador or electric fan sa tapat, no, para mawala pa yung init. So mula dito, naisip namin, bakit nga ba may ganitong konteksto tayong mga Pilipino? And when we search it from the documents or from the researches, nabanggit siya ni Feliz Santa Maria sa book niya sa Governor General's Cookbook. No? At some point during that time, no, when the Chinese, no, introduced it and put up now panciterias, or even now the context of the chow traders, no, yung mga Chinese natin na nag-offer ngayon ng pancit in street areas during that time, mabilisan kasi yung pagkain. So at some point, dahil sa pagiging mabilis nito, na nakakalimutan yung konteksto of the cleanliness, no? So meron doong konteksto dun sa nilagay ni Ma'am Feliz from the book that there is a distinct smell, no? Or kaya the surrounding na talagang there's a lot now of grease, no, from the kitchen or from the tables. So this is a context na it is associated at some point with the context on how you cook it. Dahil nga mabilis ang pagkain siya at napakadaming tao, no, na umu-order. And at some point, connected siya dito kasi nagsisimula sila magluto ng mga pancit nila kasi ang kanilang mga buyers dito, mga taga-palengke, yung mga at some point retailers kasi considered sila as the supplier. So, pumipila sila dito ng mga 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock ng madaling araw, itong mga mamimili. So, nagsisimula sila mga 1 or at some point, mga 10 o'clock ng gabi, nagsisimula na sila magluto ng pancit. At mabilisan kasi ilang oras lang no, yung kailangan mong gawin dahil darating na sila, dadating na yung mga magtitinda by 3 or 4 ng madaling araw. At sobrang haba ng pila. No? At ang dami pa din na bumibili sa kanila. So, nandun yung context na the people embrace this kind of tradition. Aside from that, this one is another video.
Meron ang tawag na anong pagkakalo ninyo? Meron. Anong tawag mo yun?
Ganyan lang talaga ang halos. Ganyan lang talaga ang halos.
Ako, dapat dalawang may isang parang kuhanan ng tatlo,
Kailangan na
pares, no? The first one, yung soup ladle nila, it is used to get now or to pour now kaldo or hot stock to your noodle. And then the other one, yung mismong stir-fried ladle. So yun ngayon yung pinangahalo mo to incorporate now the flavor with the pancit together with the different flavorings and also with your vegetable. The third one, ito, yung tatlong susunod na video, this one is to show you paano nila ginagawa yung balisong-song shape na container.
And then getting to the top portion. Okay, and then eating it, even if it is hot. Okay, great. No, kaya sinabi yun. Now, sub actually.
Ang bilis. So, sabi nga namin dito, ano siya, napaka ano niya, kumbaga expert siya. At kung mapapansin niyo, ayan, no, kumbaga mapapansin niyo madumi, no, at some point, no, yung paligid. Pag pumunta ka dito ng 5 o'clock ng umaga to 6 to 7 o'clock ng umaga, sobrang daming tao sa harapan nitong pansiteria na ito. And actually hindi siya, wala siyang table, wala siyang chair wherein you can eat it dine in. So talagang may table lang sila dyan. Ito yung mga tao, they will tell now how many they would like to buy, tapos ite-prepare na ngayon. Mabilisan at mabilis maubos, no? In all fairness. Kung mapapansin nyo din yung container na ginagamit nila, medyo luma na. Sabi nga namin, sir, bakit hindi nyo pa pinapalitan? Panigurado, ang laki na ng kinikita nyo dito. Pero, sinasabi ng may-ari, hindi kasi it's already part of the pansiteria. Parang ito yung aming pampaswerte. So, it only shows na kahit we're talking about food, a tangible product, food as a intangible product because it is a process, no? Pero nandun pa rin yung context na meron pa ring material culture, no? Lalo na dito sa communities or dito sa mga familial entities who are operating the pansitérias. Na-preserve nila yon and they would like to continue it, no? Yung pagkakaroon ng ganitong klaseng material culture. So, this one is in Taal, in Batangas. Another one is in Cavite City.
Ano po yung una nyo nilalagay?
Gulay.
Gulay po?
Bawang.
Bawang.
Charon.
Charon.
At pinakapansin.
Pinakapansin po. Yung po yung atswete ang ginagamit.
Aswete.
Sa isang araw, mga ilang beses po kayo nagluluto?
Dalawa.
Dalawang beses lang po.
Sama ko ng puso.
Sama niyo yung puso. So yung pinapakita ko sa TV, ganun mo talaga kayo magluto araw-araw.
Okay, so yan yung second area na document namin na gumagamit ng balisong-song shape na container for takeout. So isinasama na lahat and that's good for one consumption. Even the puso, yung pampaasim, sinasama na rin siya. The third one is in Buwak, Marinduque. So this one, yung example na may gumagamit ng tali, no, to secure now your balisong-song shape na hindi bubulwak ngayon or lalabas ngayon yung pancit coming from the container. The last video that we would like to share is yung at some point sa lahat ng na-document namin, ito yung mayroong tradisyon na gumagamit sila ng banana Q stick, no, for eating it.
To squeeze it, and that's it. You get it. Okay? So yan. Now, in the...
So, mapapansin nyo kanina, before I played the video, meron kayo makitang bottle doon or container na may mga banana Q stick. So, once na bumili sila ngayon dito, kukuha sila ngayon ng banana Q stick. Dalawang paraan kung paano nila kakainin. Puputulin nila sa gitna, pero hindi siya as in putol or separated, and then para siyang magiging tweezer, no? Para siyang mini chopstick pero may security dun sa pinakadulo. And then the second one, kukuha sila ng dalawang banana Q stick and make it as a chopstick. So, yun yung paraan nila dito. Now, from this research, sa amin kasi, we would like to create or to expound now the research to a more kumbaga comprehensive or to focus now to a specific topic, no, for Pancit culinary heritage. So gumawa kami ng 2 separate researches from this. So from my end, I've created or at some point identified the culinary safeguarding dimensions coming from the culinary safeguarding culture na inintroduce ni Mercado at Zerudo in 2018 for Lomi Culinary Heritage in Lipa City, Batangas. So, how will you preserve, sustain the culinary context or the culinary significance of it, and we assure the viability or the transmission of our culinary heritage from generation to generation. So, yun yung importance nitong research na ito, itong culinary safeguarding dimensions. So, this one was already presented last Thursday in the conference organized by the University of the Philippines Diliman, Asian Institute of Tourism, and by the Department of Hotel, Restaurant, and Institution Management. And lalabas na rin siya for publication. So nasa review stage na siya, tapos na siya sa first level review, and hoping na lumabas yung result within this month or by next month. The second one ay culinary policies and governance. Maybe my partner, Sir Abby, could share to us a glimpse of his research.
Ayun, maraming salamat, Sir Mo. No? So basically, for the other half or for the offshoot of the Pancit research, my dear friends, would be focusing on culinary policies and governance. So in here, my dear friends, tinukoy namin kung ano-ano nga ba yung mga munisipyo, yung mga cities, mga probinsya na mayroong napakagandang mga policies when it comes to preserving the intangible cultural heritage. And one of the most significant thing na na-discover namin is the town of Cabagan in Isabela, wherein they have created a municipal ordinance number 35 series of 2011 recognizing Pancit Cabagan as one of the intangible heritage of the town. So dito mga kapatid, makikita natin yung konteksto ng sustainability when it comes to policy making and public policies in per se, no? And hindi natin maikakaila yung connection between public administration and preserving this kind of manifestations of culture. And with that, my dear friends, makikita natin dito kung paano nagre-react yung mga LGUs. Are they reactive? Are they proactive when it comes to policy making, protecting this intangible cultural heritage? So dito po namin nakita yun. And one thing na naaalala namin dito sa study na ito is that it really depends on the prioritization of local government units when it comes to the preservation of this type of treasures. Kasi bakit natin siya poprotektahan? At the end of the day, these local government units must protect and preserve this manifestation of cultural heritage. Kasi ito tayo. Ito yung representation ng ating kultura. Ito yung representation ng mga tao na nakatira sa komunidad na yun. At kumbaga, I believe my partner would agree na ito po yung representation kung ano tayo bilang Pilipino. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sir Abby, for that sharing on the research on culinary policies and governance. So, also, this is a new development for our research. We've invited to create a chapter in a book for Springer. They would like us to tell the story on how we create this project. No, at some point magandang channel ito on how we can also share it to others and for other researchers also to create their own researches or documenting different kinds of culinary heritage resource in the Philippines. Definitely hindi lang pancit ang meron dito sa Pilipinas at napakadami nating pagkain and nakakatuwang isipin with the efforts of the Department of Tourism, with Kain Na project and also with other programs highlighted by our dear Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat when it comes to food heritage and tourism, ito na siguro yung tamang time to document everything na meron tayo. Although merong efforts na ginagawa ang napakadaming researchers natin together also with our different Philippine culinary historians and also chefs from Pampanga, from Iloilo, from Cebu, from Davao or from Cagayan de Oro area or from the Tawi-Tawi area, even in Tawi-Tawi. So maybe it is again the right time to document it systematically using cultural heritage mapping and also identifying the perspectives of your stakeholders. So we've created, coming from our stories, we've created the Ysla de Panciteria Research Methodological Matrix. And this one will be published by next year, by January or February next year. And hoping na makatulong ito mula doon sa mga different researchers who are also focusing on documenting researches on culinary heritage, specifically from the academe, from the students, and also for researchers. At the end of the day, or to end this up, our presentation, sila po ang bayani. These people who continuously safeguard and preserve our culinary heritage, specifically from this pancit culture from 8 regions, na merong mga panciteria, meron silang advocacy to cook it to their family, to their friends, prepare it during their celebrations. Sila ang nagpapatuloy ng ating tradisyon. Sila yung nagbibigay sa atin ngayon ng assurance that there will be pancit, choco enso tinta, pancit habhab, pancit kabagan, pancit battle pato as time goes by. That's why it is very important that we support them. That's why at some point, yung research ni Sir Abby when it comes to political governance, it is really significant that we need to have a collaborative effort coming from different stakeholders, not only from those people, from the private sector who are offering this food, but also it is a collaborative effort coming from different stakeholders to preserve and to continue the transmission of this tradition. And nakakatuwang isipin, during the time that we are documenting it, nakakita kami ng mga ganitong bata. Tinanong namin sila, bakit kayo kumakain ng pancit? Meron naman tayong mga fast food chains dyan. We have spaghetti also. We have also fast food chicken joy, or kaya different kinds of already or prepared food to cook or to eat. Bakit pancit? Nakakatuwang isipin, dun sa answer nila, unang-una, ito po yung tinuro sa amin ng aming mga magulang. So nandun yung familial context of transmission. You influence now your sons and daughters, your apos, your grandchildrens to eat or to prepare at some point sana the dish. Pero at some point, nandun din yung konteksto namin, isang bata nagsabi, dahil ito po yung kinalakhan namin. This is our way of life. Ito na yung normal namin na kinakain sa pang-araw-araw. Lalo-lalo na daw sa kanila kasi malapit yung pansiteria sa eskwelahan nila, dun sila makakatakbo at makakakain sila ng pancit for a small amount of money. No? With that, maraming salamat po sa pakikinig mula po sa kolehiyo namin sa College of Tourism and Hospitality Management from the University of Santo Tomas with Sir Avi Ben Andalecio. Kami po nagpapasalamat sa Intramuros Administration and also to the Department of Tourism for giving us the opportunity for sharing this one, and also to Ecomos Philippines. And mabuhay at kain po tayo.
Thank you, Sir Mon and Sir Avi, for that very interesting presentation. I'm sure all of us here have a greater appreciation of the culinary heritage significance of these dishes. So now we can proceed to the Q&A part of the webinar.
Thank you for that. So that was really nakakatakam na webinar. So it's like this is already our merienda for this afternoon. We're watching Pancit. Anyway, so before we start with our Q&A, we would like to remind everyone that if you have any questions, if you are viewing by Zoom, if you have any questions, feel free to ask your questions in the comment section below. And you are, of course, encouraged to ask questions. And then we are going to read questions on air as we go.
And if you're viewing via Facebook, feel free to ask questions or send in any comments there in the comment section. However, due to limited time, we may not get to entertain all questions, but we'll try to accommodate as many as we can.
Thank you for that, Gio. Now, as we gather from your research, Pancit is directly connected with geography, no? And this is reflected in the names. A lot of the Pancit names reflect the origin, the geographical origin where they came from. So this is a type of intangible heritage which is directly dependent and connected on sites. So with that in mind, now in trying to connect that with the term, the protection, which you have stated earlier, now when you say protection, what is the ideal that you have in mind? Also, do you think that the concepts of geographical indications, terroir, and trademark should apply?
Thank you, Sir Rancho, for that question. No? First one, when it comes to protection, I guess that's the essence of what we've created, yung first research, yung first extended research, which is yung culinary safeguarding dimensions, wherein we've identified 11 dimensions. We focus on how we can protect it from the management and organization side. Meron bang kailangang organization within the area who will facilitate now the context of all these panciteria efforts? Or kaya from the private sector themselves, yung mismo mga panciteria, how it works for them as a familial business or as a communal business, no, to continue. Next, legislation. So, mayroon bang support coming from the government to create ordinance or guidelines? Kasi meron na tayong mga local government units who've created ordinances related on food heritage, just like in Angeles City, Pampanga for sisig, and then we have also for Kabagan, Pancit Kabagan nga for Kabagan, Isabela. Then we have raw ingredients and the environment. So yung pangatlong dimensions then would focus on the agricultural sustainability of the ingredients available. Kasi marami kami mga na-document at some point din na may ingredient na nawawala na. That's why they've looked for new ingredient. Just like in Tuguegarao City, no, in Cagayan, meron sila doon na noodle dish, no, na medyo talagang at some point nawawala na. With the context na, kasi doon kasi sa Cagayan River, meron kami nakukuha na shellfish, na yun yung inahalo namin. Unfortunately, nagkaroon na ng maraming changes when it comes to the Cagayan River side, lumalim na yung tubig, wala na kami nakukuhang shelf, at hindi na at some point, wala na kami pampalasa, no, for that food. That's why nawala na rin at some point yung pagkain, no, within the area of concern. Next, after raw ingredients and the environment, is we focused on the context of viability. No, how we transmit your tradition from one generation down to another. So for viability, ang tinitignan namin dito muna is yung nasa familial context, no, nasa family, paano nila ini-introduce to with their sons and daughters, with their apos, no, or from the context na Mayroon pa ring relationship talaga ito doon sa communal entity. So, meron kaming isa na document in Batangas wherein dahil sa sobrang lamig ng kanilang environment, especially for selected months, no, very comforting na kumain ng mainit na sabaw. No, that's why at some point na-continue nila yung traditional lomi in Lipa City, Batangas because of that. Aside from that, pati yung kanilang Batangas goto, no, wherein wala siyang bigas, tapos naglalagay lang sila ng different innards of meat, no, from baka. Yun yung nagiging significantly how they sustain, no, and transmit it to their new generations. And then meron din sa dimensions like promotions, no, how the stakeholders promote or provide no programs for promotions, just like tourism, no. Marami tayong mga local governments that they're doing festivities, no, in relation to this pancit tradition. So in San Jose City, they have Pancit Kanin Festival, and even in Cabagan, meron din silang Pancit Cabagan Festival. This is one way on how you continuously promote it, not only within your area, within your locality, but also with other people, with your tourists. Stakeholders' participation is another dimension na kung saan hindi lamang mga pansiteria ang merong provision for creating programs on how they can continue this. Dapat tingnan natin yung different stakeholders, from the government, from the traders, no, from the farmers, from NGOs who are associated with food, with the academe, historians. So ano yung kanilang responsibility for this? Even yung context of the heritage education and interpretation. So how can you incorporate it with the curriculum of the students? So sana na-invive na din yung context of their different traditions, their cultural traditions doon sa kanilang inaaral from their basic education down to college or even for postgraduate programs. So dapat may influence na ng local tradition. So may ganon konteksto po na meron kaming ginawa for that first research. Now that will answer the first question of Sir Rancho. For the second one, yung geographical context, I guess ito yung sinasabi na kung tama ako, Sir Rancho, you have Pancit Malabon, for example, which is really significant, and it is an identity of Malabon, pero it is being offered also with from other towns, no, or from other cities and even other provinces. Tama po ba ako, Sir Rancho? Yun, no?
Yes. So what is preventing Thailand or Singapore from copying the recipe and branding that pancit as Pancit Malabon?
Actually, napakadami namin na nakitang ganyan. Kasi before we start our research, so we've identified first, saan nga ba itong mga pancit na kailangan natin puntahan? So nakita kami from different references, from books, no, from journal articles, from internet sources. For example, meron silang hina-highlight na Pancit Malabon pero nasa Bataan. So inisip namin, sasama ba natin ito? Number one, may context pa rin na important siya. Kinu-considered nila ng community na this is our food, no? It is Pancit Malabon from Bataan, no? Ini-embrace nila 'yon. Yun nga lang, nandun yung context of yung identity. Where is it talaga? No? Kasi it's an identity of Malabon. That's why at some point, no, it is really significant for communities, especially doon sa mga nagmamay-ari nitong tradisyon na ito, the area of concern must promote the significance, no, ano yung real food, like original Pancit Malabon within their area of concern. So, kasi hindi yun magagaya ng ibang lugar. Dahil meron kayong sariling panlasa, may sarili kayong lasa, mayroon sa inyong sariling ingredients that you've incorporating it within your available ingredients. So, you continuously promote it. At some point, no, meron ding another school of thought na lumalabas na pag siya ginagaya ng iba or kaya niluluto siya from other areas, this is one thing na influence also of migration, of communities or people from that particular area down to another one. Katulad dito sa kesa sa UST na lang, no, sa may Espanya area, ang dami nagsusulputa dyan, pansit kabagan at saka pansit patil patong. Ang daming mga pansiteria dyan. Now, nainis, bakit na andyan? Bakit ang dami dito? Kasi number one, ang area na yun ang focal point for transportation from that area, from Region 2, papunta ng NCR. Now, nung tinatanong namin dito mga pansiterias na to, lalo na yung, parang nagtanong lang kami bigla kung bakit merong ganito dito. Kasi yung may-ari na andito, lumipat ng Maynila, and marami kasi din mga taga-bayan nila na gusto, or taga-bayan nila na nandito na gustong kumain ng traditional na pansit kabagan or kaya pansit patil patong. That's why they've used this context, no, to prepare and to offer it to the community or to that area. And at some point, hindi lang mga taga Isabela or mga taga Cagayan na nakuha nilang market, but eventually all the communities or the people living in the area. So at some point, ang gusto ko lang din parating dito, hindi naman nawawala yung identity. It's kabagan pa din. It's patil patong from that area. Pero it is being offered only here in that particular area of concern. Lumalabas din sa point na umaangkat pa sila ng ingredients coming from that area, no? Just to provide now the essence pa din of the food that they would like to prepare. Yun lang, sir, I guess.
Thank you, Sir Mon. We have another question here, pretty interesting, on from Miss Nina Rosella. When the Japanese occupied the Philippines, is there a type of dish similar to pancit or maybe a stir-fried noodle dish that they introduced to the Philippines?
That's an interesting question. Totoo yan, Sir Gio. Based from what we've searched, no, dun sa 101 pansit, wala kaming nakita na historical context that is related to the Japanese occupation. Although alam natin, we have ramen, we have yung udon, no, may mga ganyan, pero wala kaming na-document or na-share sa amin through oral history na merong influence ang Japanese, no, for that particular pansit. Normally, ang lumalabas lang lagi, number one, yung aming mga lolo or lola, pero normally mga lalaki na nag-migrate, no, from China going here during the 50s and the 60s. Sila yung nakapunta, sila ngayon yung nag-create ng pansit, or kaya meron silang kapitbahay na Chinese na nag-offer ng pansit. So, ang maganda with this Chinese family, they shared it freely, yung recipe on how they cook it, kaya nagaya ng community. So, wala pa kaming na encounter na when it comes to the Japanese influence.
Thank you for that. We have a question from Zoom. Which among the pancits you have documented is your favorite?
Sir Abby? Sir Abby, baka matulungan mo ako dito. Dami kasi, 101. Sir Abby?
Okay. Thank you very much for that wonderful question. No? Siyempre, taga-Romblon ako. Naisama namin sa documentation po namin yung kumo na tinatawag. And bilang Romblomano, lumaki po ako na kinakain ko po yon, especially kung nagtitipid. And san ka pa, no? Carbs plus protein, ulam. And kumbaga sa aming mga basketball players noon, kumbaga pampalakas po yan ng tuhod talaga, pampalakas ng katawan. So para sa akin, no, hayaan niyo po ako maging bias ngayon. So yung pansit kumo po dito sa Romblon, yun po yung sa tingin ko para sa akin. Pero napakarami po, depende sa probinsya. Kung tatanungin niyo po ako ulit, depende talaga sa probinsya o depende sa kung ano yung taste preferences natin. Kung gusto natin ng maanghang, then may pansit para sa atin, no? May pansit para sa inyo. Kung gusto natin ng medyo masabaw, no, nandyan po yung nagsasarapang mga pansit ng mga taga Bulacan na may mga sabaw, no? Yung pansit bakla, no? And the like. Do ikaw ba, Sermon, kung tatanungin kita, ano ba yung pinakamasarap na pansit?
For me, it's pansit masha ng San Pedro City, Laguna. I don't know, it's because it's really rich in meat flavor. The way on how they cook it kasi, yung bihon is being cooked with this this meat stock, this pork stock na ang nilalagay nila ay mukha ng baboy, yung mga malalaking buto ng baboy din, yun ang nilalagay nila, and they cook it for 12 hours. Tapos yun yung pinapang-flavor doon. And then, you have now the adobong gizzard, which is another flavor na very rich din. And then, talagang pagkakain ka doon, very oily ng iyong lips because of that. Plus, I guess the concept of putting tamis anghang ketchup really provides now a new twist to the dish, which is merong kang spicy and sweet flavor now coming from that condiment.
Thanks. We have a comment from Gab Caballero. He says, "Wonderful presentation, Jame. Has the research of this food heritage linked to the study of the protection of the built heritage in the places where the pancit is cooked?" I remember seeing there was an article about this also.
Yes. Yung ating panciteria Macanista de Buen Gusto in Binondo, which is very questionable at some point, that they would like to tear it down and put it up now a high-rise building, a condominium building. At some point, for us who are promoting this kind of culinary culture, medyo nakakatakot. And that's a good point coming from Sir Gab. It is always at some point related to the built structures or the built heritage, specifically the panciterias. Because at the end of the day, yun yung way on how you can access the food, specifically nowadays. It's a commercial thing already, so we need to go to a panciteria or to a karinderya or to a turo-turo, para lang makakain ka nun. So it is, I guess, one way on how maybe the government, then papasok siguro ang gobyerno din, and even the private sectors, itong mga may-ari ng mga pansiteria na you continuously preserve and conserve your structures or your built heritages related on food heritage, because this is one way on how you can provide now or to open it to the public, to make it available.
Okay, hindi rin naman siguro natin, Sir Mon, maikakaila yung importance din ng higher educational institutions. One of the offshoots of this research would be focusing actually on government and universities. What are the roles of these universities and their help for the local government units when coming up with evidence-based policies, kasi yun po yung kailangan natin. Hindi tayo basta-basta gagawa ng isang pulisiya nang wala pong ebidensya. Galing, of course, sa tulong yan ng mga HEIs natin, ng mga universities and colleges around the Philippines. Napakadami po natin bakit wala tayong magawang pulisiya na magpoproteka sa kanya-kanyang intangible cultural heritage such as pancit.
Thank you for that. We have a question from Teresita Angsi of Bahay Chinoy. So, she said, "This is it, pancit has become a popular expression. The recent children's book of Anvil has this title, That's It, Pancit." Kailan ang galing yung expression na yan? Ano kaya ang context?
Thank you, Ma'am Teresita Angsi, for that question. So, at some point, kahit ako, nung nasabi niyo po yung question, parang, oo nga, paano ba nagsimula yung konteksto ng This Is It, Pancit? Actually, to tell you honestly, wala pong lumabas dun sa research namin. Hindi po namin siya i-document or na-research when it comes to that. But I guess that is one thing that we need to consider now for an extensive or to create now an extensive research on its social context, yung social expressions natin. Kasi when it comes to this research, we focus on its culinary context. Pero the way on how it is being influenced now to this, yung the everyday influential thing coming from pancit, that is one thing na magandang i-research coming from us or from other researchers. So I guess it's a wild guess, ito siguro masasabi ko na siguro this is it, pancit is yung context nga na it is a festive food, so talagang it is being offered for special events. And pag sinabi mong this is it, pancit, at some point, ito yung expression natin na this is now the right time that we need to do something or we need to do a thing. So, parang it's a special thing that we need to do. Parang yun yung aking personal thought on that particular social context, kasi it's a special food for a special event No, that's why we incorporated with our expression of doing also special things. So yun lang. It's a personal thought, but again, it is a good thing that we would like to research on in our future endeavor.
Okay, thank you. I think we have time for one more question, but I want to kind of frame this to respond to two questions we have because it's quite similar. So Sir Dennis Castaño said, it's really a heartwarming source of pride, the richness of our culinary heritage. On a global spectrum though, what or how can we make pancit distinctly Filipino considering the many regional variants we have? And Sir Wendell asked after that, how do we further encourage Filipinos to appreciate our native culinary taste despite this prevalence in the global influence of these other countries?
Siguro po dahil this is the last question, maybe Sir Abby, kami siguro dalawa ang magbibigay ng sarili naming thoughts. Sir Abby?
Sir, sorry nawala po yung internet na. Sorry. Can you please repeat the question, sir, please? Thank you.
It's on a global spectrum, what or how can we make pancit distinctly Filipino considering the many regional variants, and how do we make this stand out with all the global influence of other countries?
All right. So I think, sir, if you're going to ask me that kind of, idea, no? For me, that is actually an idea. It would always boil down to our policymakers, no? For example, no, it is a challenge for the Department of Tourism kung paano nila ma-market yung ating sariling produkto, sariling pagkain. Kasi if you're going to look at Thailand, bakit ba sobrang kilala ang Thai food? Bakit ba hanggang dito sa atin nakakarating ang Thai food? It is because of their marketing, no? Yung mga nasa tourism industry, alam nila yung term of Thainess, no? Bakit ba sa Pilipinas, meron ba tayong term na Filipino-ness? Yan. So, I believe na meron pong importanteng piniplay or role yung ating policymakers when it comes to marketing and when it comes to, of course, no, before marketing, sustainability of this intangible cultural heritage. So, yun lang po yung aking masasabi about that.
Me, my takeaway for that is that it will start with viability, wherein it's the transmission muna within your familial context or within the community. Dapat alamin mo muna that this is your heritage, this is your culinary value, this is our own taste. No, this is how we develop an acculturated dish coming from the Chinese. Nilagyan natin ang sarili natin panlasa. And as we go along, no, that we embrace, we at some point we become aware of this significance. Magsusulputan na yung lahat ng projects na yan eh. From different promotions, tourism programs, or in the context of how we can encourage people, no, to offer also pancit dish or a specific Filipino food to your area of concern and even to other countries. No? So, ang magandang isipin dito, no, lalo na if we would like to promote it to other nationalities, to our foreign entities, nasa sa atin din yung movement. We would like to put up now certain restaurants, I guess, that we could offer Filipino food. But eventually, may question tayo again when it comes to resources or ingredients kasi hindi naman available yung ganitong vegetable dyan or kaya ganitong ingredient dyan. May ganong problema. Pero as we boil down now to the context na baka naman pwede natin i-introduce sa kanila, no, having this kind of restaurant. Introduce muna natin sa kanila, sige, maglagay muna tayo ng mga alternatives. Pero ito yung very significant thing na dapat malaman or i-take note ng mga nagpo-put up ng restaurants in other countries. Na yes, you can provide alternative kasi it is the available ingredient in your area. Pero kailangan maglagay ka ng interpretation, maglagay ka ng at some point certain areas of your panciterias or your restaurant that would tell us the essence talaga of what is this food at ano yung normally talagang nilalagay. And at some point, no, as a tourist, for example, as you visit now the Philippines, daan dun yung context so that you would like now to experience again eating this one kasi na-experience ko to when I ate this in New York City for their sisig na that they offered it in New York City na Dahil nasarapan ako doon, why not na once that I visit the Philippines, gusto ko ngayon matikman itong sisig na ito. So I guess that's one thing that we need to consider. Put up, no, contribute now to put up now restaurant establishments or even to promote it using social media accounts and all. Changes are there, no, wala tayong magagawa doon, but in the context of educating and interpreting the significance through different creative the creative ways, no, on how to do it, and then once that we encourage them, no, to visit the Philippines or to continuously eat it, no, mapapatuloy natin at mapapromote natin na maayos ito. So that's it.
Thank you so much. All right, so that was the last question that we can accommodate for today. Unfortunately, we cannot read any more questions. There are, I think, may mga 40 plus questions pa. So unfortunately, we no longer have time. But if you are genuinely interested in asking your question, you can email us at research@intramuros.gov.ph and we will forward the question. We will connect you with our speakers. So for those who are genuinely interested in the topic, you can email us at research@intramuros.gov.ph. Okay, so our episode is not done yet. Kasi we still have our last part of this episode. So we're going to have a game. Di ba, Gio? We have a game.
Yes, Rancho, we're going to have a mini quiz bee, and everyone is welcome to join. So there will be 10 questions, and whoever gives the most correct answers, and not to mention the fastest time, will win. So what will our lucky winner get to claim after the game, Rancho?
Okay, so our lucky winner for this game, so the winner is entitled to receive an Intramuros team gift card, an Intramuros team t-shirt, and an Intramuros team tote bag. So how can you join? Everyone is welcome to join. Just go to menti.com and enter the code, which is shown in the screen, 1537572, or you can just scan this QR code, and then make sure to use your real name. Please use your real name, real and full name, so that we can easily verify later that you have won. And then if in case you win, by the way, there's only one winner for this game. So whoever gets the most correct answer and whoever is the fastest in answering, so that's our winner. So if in case you won, how do you claim your prize? Just email us at helpdesk@intramuros.gov.ph, and as I said, make sure to use your real name and screenshot your phone once you win. Then email us the following: your screenshot, your complete mailing address so that we can dispatch our messenger to your mailing address, and then of course a valid government-issued ID. Okay, so may I call on our quiz operator, Jeffrey Yap, to share his screen so that we can start with the game. And then Gio, if you can read the first question. Maybe we can wait na at least 30. Anyway, maybe we should start now.
Okay, for the first question, according to the study, who brought the culture of noodle making in the country? Is it Japanese, Chinese, Marco Polo, or Raha Suleiman?
Right. The answer is Chinese. Okay, next question. Question number 2. According to the presentation, what is the oldest Chinatown in the world? It's in the photo. Time's up. The correct answer is Parian, which eventually became the Binondo. Okay, Gio.
Okay, next question. Who cooked the first lomi in Batangas?
The correct answer is
Ooh.
Tok Kim Ang.
That was tough.
Lim Tuaco is the person behind the distillery Lim Tuaco, so that's a different guy. Next question. So what region has the most pancit dishes in the country? Is it NCR, Region 1, Region 5, or Region 2? Time's up. The answer is NCR.
Okay, the fifth question. By the way it is normally eaten, pancit lukban is also known as what?
Yes, the answer is pancit habab. And moving on to our sixth question. What makes pancit choco and sutinta black in color? Black coffee, black tea, squid ink, food coloring. Time's up. The answer is ink. Though may sumagot ng black coffee. Okay, see you for the seventh question.
Okay, what is the town in Luzon which passed an ordinance on recognizing and protecting the significance of their very own pancit? Okay, and the answer is Kabagan Isabela.
Okay, then we have question number 8. Pancit Bicol Express can be found in what province, according to the study? Bicol, Camarines Sur, Albay, Sorsogon. Time's up. The correct answer is Albay, because Bicol is not a province. It is a region. Okay, you?
Okay, ninth question. How many pancit dishes have been mapped in the study?
Siguro bonus na lang ito. Pero,
Who knows? Maybe it's a trick question.
ano tumagat pa rin na. The answer is 101. Alright. Sorry about that. Okay. Last question. The study was funded by what organization? NCCA, UST, IA, or National Museum? Answer is NCCA. Thank you for listening in the presentation.
Okay, those are all the questions. So let's see who the winner is.
Ooh.
Wow. Congrats! You just won yourself an Intramuros themed beep card and an Intramuros themed tote bag and Intramuros themed t-shirt.
Congratulations, Sen, Micah Reganit. Make sure to email us at helpdesk@intramuros.gov.ph. Then make sure to use your screenshot your phone right now. Just screenshot your phone right now and email us your screenshot, your complete mailing address, and of course, a valid government issued ID. Okay, so all right, so that concludes our 36th episode of the Intramuros Learning Sessions. For those who missed this session, sorry. For those who missed this session or who came in late, do not worry because you can go to our YouTube channel for a recording which will be made available within the next 24 hours. So, and while you're at it, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And Gio?
And for updates on future episodes, please feel free to follow us online. IA is available on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And also, feel free to follow us at Ecomos Philippines. We're also available on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
And then to promote as well our page at Google Arts and Culture. So if you missed visiting our museum, you can virtually visit us from the comfort of your home. So a lot of our museum items have been digitized. So you can view our artifacts online at our page at Google Arts Culture, just be in Intramuros Administration. And I'd like to take this opportunity to promote our next events. So from December 11 to 12, we're going to have our second annual Intramuros and Scholars Conference. The theme is Intramuros, a heritage of resilience. So a total of 7 papers will be presented from young scholars, very young scholars, so promising young researchers. And if you are interested, you can check out the details at our IA Facebook page and make sure to register now because we have limited slots. And also to promote our next ILS, so this will be ILS number 37. 37. So, sorry, I lost track. So 37. So our next topic is the nostalgia of Manila Sound with Moy Ortiz. So this will be on November 25, 2020 at 3 p.m. So for those who are interested in Manila Sound, this is a topic for you. And then on December 3, we're going to have a webinar on court victories for women and children with Judge Elisa R. Sarmiento Flores, who is the presiding judge of Regional Trial Court, Ranch 75 of Pasig City. So this is part of our program, 18-day campaign to end violence against women and children.
Okay, and again, just inviting everyone to follow the Ecomos social media platforms. We have online talks, and we also share events of other local and international institutions, including courses related to heritage that might be of interest to some of you. And if you're interested in applying for membership or the internship program, feel free to contact us on our page or email.
Thank you so much, Gio. And then finally, before we say our goodbyes, so may I ask Sir Jame or Sir Avi if you have any final words to say?
Siguro po, it's all about how we appreciate food. Pumunta po tayo sa ating mga karinderya, sa ating mga pansiteria, sa lahat ng po pwede natin mapuntahan para kumain ng Filipino food. Appreciate it, namnamin, kainin, mabusog, pero kailangan alamin natin how we can continuously promote it and safeguard it. Sir Avi?
Para sa akin, love your calories.
Thank you. Thank you, Sir Avi. Naikot na ata namin ang bahay ninyo. Alright. Meron po kayong sabihin, Sir Avi? O, yun na yun. Okay. So, alright. So, that concludes our 36th episode of Intramuros Learning Sessions. Thank you, Gio. Thank you, dear speaker.
Thank you.
And of course, thank you to our attendees and viewers for joining us today. So, until next time, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye.